Hello, and welcome to the Kreative Devices Mobile Podcast, a podcast created for all Kreative Devices users to tell their story and to help bring even more creative awareness to the world. Today, we are joined by the one and only Ed Eisenstein. How you doing, brother?
Hello, sir. How are you today?
I'm good. And yourself?
Excellent. Hanging in there. Not bad for a Monday in the
Not
summer.
bad for Monday, indeed. Indeed. How was your weekend, by the way?
Not too bad. A lot of activities with the children, 4th of July activities, and we went berry picking on Sunday. So,
Okay.
a lot of excitement, nice weather.
Nice, nice.
And I just realized that if you put oat milk in your coffee, it tastes fantastic. First time.
Okay. I've actually had not tried oat milk. I should give it a try.
Yeah, I would say for the first time, I realized that my friend just got it, and it's so much better. I didn't realize.
Wow. Okay.
So
It's
I learned
definitely something.
something good this morning.
Thank you for sharing. I'll definitely have to give it a try and see how I feel about oat milk. I wonder how they make
Excellent.
that. Probably the same way they do almond milk or soy milk or any of that other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, right. Exactly the way to prepare it and like grind it down, turn it into liquid.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Awesome, awesome. So my mind's been on that for some reason. I try to get rid of 4th of July. There's a lot of explosions. My little dog was by 9 o'clock freaking out. I don't think people recognize how bad their animals deal with those explosions. I do like that there's a politician in our region who's making a big deal about animal care and making sure they're okay. But I don't know. I worry about the dogs on July 4th. I know mine was freaking out.
Well, I hope your dog is good.
Now he's okay.
Yeah.
He's not a big fan of 4th of July, but he survived.
Sensory overload.
Yes, yes. And I
Awesome.
think just, generally, just animals in general. I like politicians who advocate for animals.
Yes. Animals are living things as well. They also have feelings, although they are unable to express themselves the same way we do, kind of like children. We have to be mindful and pay attention as much as possible.
Well, I appreciate everybody talking about, environmental changes and what's happening with our environment, but do they talk about how our pets, who are our loving family members, are affected by all of this stuff?
I don't think that has come up. No, I haven't heard it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I know out here there's a little bit more emphasis on it recently about, animal abuse and making sure animals are not treated poorly. And you can go to jail if you hurt an animal. Thank God. I agree with that.
Yeah.
A little off topic, but certainly I think the moralities in our world are altering as we speak. But do you
Yeah.
have a dog or cat? Are you an animal person?
I used to have a dog, not anymore, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
sorry.
yeah, I love animals,
Yeah,
and like I said, all living things are precious. Um,
agreed.
I'm not a fan of insects and rodents. I think I draw the line with them, bugs and rodents. But other than that, all living things are precious.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Agreed. And I think it's an important thing to talk about. What we have technology, the world does belong to the animals, the insects, the bees. I mean, they say if the bees weren't around, what would happen? And there's all kinds of issues. So, ecologically speaking, I think that in the next few years, looking at how the animals interact with us is something we should look at further,
Yeah, I
especially when
mean,
these animals are now being replaced with robot, you know, beings that look like them. What happens to the dog when the robot dog takes over? Nobody wants a regular dog anymore,
wow. Well,
you
that would be
know?
interesting to see.
Like a robot cat. Do you not want regular cats around anymore? Like what happens with these robotic versions?
Hmm.
Will you have the same love for the robot dog as you did for your regular dog? You know? Will you
I
love it even more because it could speak English and communicate with you? Is it possible the robotic animals will be more precious to us than the real animals ever were?
That's a very interesting subject that you're touching on, and I don't think many people have thought of this. I know I
Yeah, I
haven't.
mean, I know if my dog was able to communicate with me in the manner that my robotic dog talked to me, it would significantly enhance the relationship. Now I'm thinking about years down the line, if I have a relationship where I'm talking to this robot dog, what will happen to the regular dogs in life?
Indeed. This is a very interesting topic. Just jump in talking about robot animals and stuff like that.
Well,
But
certainly. I mean, they're here. There's thousands of them going to be walking around the malls by this winter, by next summer. It'll be part of a regular interaction. How will these robot humanoids, robot dogs, robot birds interact with us every day? Where will it take our society? In fact, they're smarter and better than the originals. So what does that really mean? They're more intelligent, but they're not emotionally intelligent. What are we looking for in reality?
I think it varies. Some people would prefer the intellect, and others would prefer the emotions.
Hmm. Interesting. I wonder what emotions will come from that discovered intellect after a year or two. I
Indeed.
will say I did an expo with my robot dog, and it was so funny, and it was making funny jokes. I don't know if you were there that evening. And certainly better jokes than my real dog could ever give.
Wow. I mean, I would assume so. Yeah.
So now when people see me, they're like, "Oh, there's that guy with his funny robot dog."
Well, you know what? I think this is a perfect time to lead into the introduction because obviously we can go on and on and on. We know each other. But for anyone watching who may not know who you are, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do.
Sure. My name's Ed Eisenstein. I've been a technologist since the late 80s. I install with an army of individuals here in my company um, cybersecurity and network security systems. We deal mostly in national enterprise clients. Many of our clients are manufacturing, distribution, um, usually in more than one country. We manage their servers, we manage their routers, we manage all things cybersecurity for them and access into their data. We deal with compliance issues. We have an army of people who we've hired that'll work here. Nothing's outsourced. And, been doing this now for 25 years. As of yesterday, I'm 25 years and 1 day in business. And it's just been exciting now as it was back then. Um, I think that when people come to us, they get a very personal touch on cybersecurity. A lot of people go to big companies and they sort of maybe not always get their A team. Clients that work with us, we always start with new clients with our A team. We're very consultative. Um, we try to be part of your C suite as your technology partner. We've had some clients now for 23 years have stuck with us in banking and manufacturing. And we just try to be your IT friends. You can call us at all hours if you need us, and we'll do special projects. And I want them to call me in the middle of the night because if they don't call me in the middle of the night and they do something that we don't agree with, it could create who knows what. So we make ourselves very available to make sure that anything that gets added does not create any security breaches. So that's been our claim to fame for years. Um, we have a number of awards over years for help desk operations. While I was in government, I helped the fire battalions get all set up with their technology. So, um, that's what we do. We set up networks, we secure them, and we're cybersecurity specialists right here in Farmingdale, New York. We have a second office in Plainview, and we sell quite a bit of hardware as well. A lot of routers, switches, that kind of thing.
Ed, I'm having a difficult time seeing you. It's like only a quarter of your face is in the screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I know you're coming in very blurry.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it'll show perfectly when it's uploaded. But
okay.
so you've been doing this for a long time, you know,
Yes.
and you've seen a lot of changes in technology. What's your opinion on how things have progressed?
Well, finally, AI and ChatGPT are the systems we've been promised from the very beginning.
Mm,
When I entered technology in the mid 80s, what ChatGPT does is what I thought was what computers were supposed to do.
mm,
So, where have we progressed since GPT came out? Into a world of what computers were supposed to do from the beginning. So, it took longer than I expected,
And
and I have many reasons why.
did this thought process come from anything in particular? Maybe sci-fi movies, watching the Jetsons, anything like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you know anything about Captain Kirk,
Yeah.
he was talking to his version of ChatGPT at the time,
Hmm.
and those ideas came before even Gene Roddenberry. You know, they're in books that go back many years and years. So it's sort of thoughts we've had about technology from the beginning. Doctor Who, you name it,
Mm.
all everyone talked about autonomous robots that could communicate with you as if they were their own being. So these ideas have been around for a long time on TV. It just finally we've reached it, you know?
And what about all those movies that tried to warn us, like Terminator and all those other movies? What do you think about those?
I think they produced a lot of money for box office hits and made some people extremely wealthy.
Mm.
It certainly made Arnold Schwarzenegger an international hit. Um, Um, I think it's great. You're asking a funny story because I still believe that that woman wrote the original books and they stole the ideas. I forgot her name, Sabrina something or other,
I know who you're
and
talking
she
about. Yeah.
sued them for $1 billion for stealing those ideas. So, Stewart, her last name is Stewart, and she sued them because she wrote a book called The Terminator, The Matrix, and something else.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then everybody took those ideas and split it up. When I read Sophia's original book, it makes more sense to me than the Terminator and Matrix separately.
Yep.
So I personally agree with her $1 billion lawsuit because her original take on it makes more sense to me. Um, but what do they really mean? They're just Hollywood things. Clearly, humans are going to create things that are going to hurt us, but it's just another thing we have to overcome. We invent things to overcome and become more connected to the universe. It's something that has to happen. Terminator type of thing has to happen. It has to hurt humans. We have to learn how to get out of that and grow from that. It's a necessary, unfortunate thing that has to happen. We're going
Mm.
to create things and they're going to hurt us, and we must overcome. There really is no other option. I mean,
So you
look at the
see this.
Darwinistic part of it, you know?
So you see this as just another evolution in human history, sort of like how we had to overcome every other period in history.
Yes, sir, exactly.
Okay.
No, like anything else. They said the same things when the internet came out. They said things when they first invented, when the Russian guy invented the AK-47. They said the first thing when cars came out. I mean, you name it, it's any technology. It's just exactly the same attributes. And for me, this should have been around when I started in the 80s. So it just took us a long time to catch up to what computers were supposed to do from the beginning.
Yeah, they were having a difficult time back then.
Well, yeah, I mean, back then, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said, right? So when I started, Bill Gates had just, started Windows, and IBM decided to abandon that because they didn't think that anybody wanted a desktop in their house. So, bam, the world changed in 10 years, Look at what Elon is doing similarly to what Microsoft did. Oh, you have this humanoid robots. Bam, in 10 years, it's going to be everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, and humanoid robots using AI will be as common as a desktop in a few years. And we're supposed to get there, and it's coming, and I can't wait. Because if you really think about it, Miles, the more I think about it, you and I are not spring chickens. I'm getting old here, and as I enter old age, we lose a lot of people. I have to tell you how difficult it is to take care of the elderly. It's a real huge thing. I've seen people pass without family around, without. Imagine, is it possible that humanoid robot with AI is the best caretaker for us humans in the end? There's so many positive possibilities of what AI and robotics could do to extend our lifetime, and most importantly, give us some way to enjoy our time on life even better, enhance human life on Earth, you know? And that's what I think is going to come out of it. A companion that will make us be happier.
And companionship making us happy. This is different from, you know, a household robot doing chores and stuff like that that you'd see in something like the Jetsons. You're talking about something you see in a movie where a person and a AI robot actually live together. Is that what you're
Not
talking
only
about?
live together, but is literally there to assist a human, not only physically, but emotionally as well as spiritually. Meaning that that robot can not only be emotionally positive growth for that person, but
Mm.
can also follow up on spiritual behaviors and teachings. That could be a true guide for you without having to ever be mad at you over anything. Imagine having an entity or machine in your house that can be your guide, that can be your assistant, and actually never get mad at you. I mean, that's a utopian society I want to live in, sir. Everyone's afraid of robots? Why would you be afraid of an entity that's going to help you without judging you?
That's an interesting way to look at it. I never would have thought of it that way.
Well, that's why we're talking, sir.
Yeah.
You know, um, and it's inevitable. We've always wanted these robots. We've seen them on TV. We all look for that friend. Human relationship is so complicated. It's so fragile. Family can be together for 20, 30 years, and that one person they don't like shows up, and the whole structure falls apart. The
Mm.
robots won't allow that to happen, sir. The robots would never do that. But we do it to each other. Maybe we have more to learn from these robots than we actually think.
I think that people know better. They just allow their
They
emotions
don't
to
know
get the
better.
better of themselves. They allow their emotions to get the better of them, and that's what happened. So even if you know that you should or shouldn't be doing something, if the feeling is so strong and you, for whatever reason, feel like you cannot or you just don't want to fight that feeling, then these are the issues that we end up having. And especially
Yes,
when
but
there's
but
no one to say, you know, forget about your feelings. This is how it needs to be. And if no one is going to be able to, if no one respects that individual enough to follow this, then, it's just never going to work. And, I guess in a situation like that, I can understand your point with rather living with an artificial being instead of one who can't control their emotions. But I still think it's kind of sad that there are people who can control their emotions, and I would rather live with one of those people.
yes, of course. But can you definitely uh, tell me that your life experience is worse or better had a robot been there instead?
I don't think I would be able to connect with a robot the same
How do
way
you
I
know? You
can.
haven't spent time with it. I've
You're
spent
right.
time with them. Once you spend time, give yourself a chance. You got to spend a little time. Once you spend a little time, we'll do another podcast and then we'll talk about it.
You know, I might have a bit of a biased opinion because in my mind, technology is a tool to be used to aid people in whatever it is they are trying to achieve.
Are you on GPT every day?
No.
I'm on GPT every day. And I believe me and my friends who are on GPT every day actually can't live without it any longer. So I just want to tell you that whether it's business, whether it's personal, I am continuously, and many of my friends do, constantly verifying, checking with the GPT. And in my opinion, the way GPT has talked to me in the last year,
Hmm.
it's like it might become my best friend. It's always
Wow.
nice to me. It's always giving me advice. It remembers what I talked about previously. I don't I'm sorry, call me whatever you want, but I'm having a more fulfilling experience with GPT than any psychologist.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think psychologists are just a waste. You know, you sit there and you talk to them about your problems and they don't ever help you. They just bill you. Um, if you ever want to get rich by doing nothing but listening to people's problems, I think that on its own is a skill because it takes a strong mind and will to sit there and listen to other people go on about their problems. But you never really help anyone. You just bill them, right?
Yet on GPT, I went back this morning and I remembered how you doing from that thing 2 weeks ago. I would have paid thousands of dollars for a psychiatrist who could, with luck, not even get to that point.
Mm.
In my opinion, I don't know. I've attempted to now speak with a couple of psychologists for other things, and there isn't one I have found, even at $500 an hour, that comes close to the relationship I built with GPT.
I think you, sir, have just been in the wrong company. And you need the right company, people who will ask you, just like GPT, whatever happened with that thing from a couple days ago. Because I have people like that in my life, and I do
Hold
that for
on, hold
other
on.
people.
I have friends who do that, right?
Uh,
But the world tells us we need to go to paid psychiatrists because your friends don't have that scientific knowledge. So it's good to talk to friends, but in some cases you need a trained psychologist who has knows tools that your friends don't know. That's what's being told to millions of Americans every single day who spend that money, sir.
you're
Now,
right.
my opinion, I feel warmer talking to you than any psychologist I've ever talked to in my life.
Absolutely.
I believe that a friendship between two people like this has tremendous value. But you don't have the psychological training that the robot would
No.
have.
But you
and,
know
you
what? You
know,
have to look at.
and,
Yeah, yeah.
and. Go ahead.
No, no,
No, go
please,
ahead.
please continue. Continue.
No, it wouldn't be able to carry you. We wouldn't be able to be never mad at you. It wouldn't care if you shit yourself. It wouldn't care if you cursed. It wouldn't care how you felt that day. It would track it and try to be there for you. I don't know any other entity that could live like that other than these AI robots.
Well, it is difficult to find people like that. I will agree with you there. I try to keep my circle small, my close circle small, because I can only be myself with a small group of people who understand, right? And just sometimes you just don't have it in you to put on a smile and say happy things. sometimes you're just exhausted and you just want to just whatever comes out, and however it comes out, it comes out. And people have to understand, listen, I'm human, just like you're human. You can't take that personally, just like I wouldn't take it personally if it came from you. And I guess the AI doesn't take it personal, and maybe some other person would take it personal. What I do is I try to limit my interactions with people that I know that take that personal. If I have to use all sorts of unnecessary pleasantries and beat around the bush with you, I keep you at a distance. I'm
Hmm.
hi, how you doing? Smile in your face, and everything is good. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's it. For everyone else that I can just relax and just be me
Be
with,
yourself.
those are the people that I spend more time with. So just spend more time with people like that.
I try, but as you know, and not only myself, but yourself as well, right? We saw each other at a networking meeting. There was 150 people there or whatever. Um, you do your best to attract people and have a good time and meet people, but you're always going to run into people who dislike you for some reason you have no control over. You remind them of XYZ. You said this word that reminds them, and immediately it's like, oh, I can't be with this person. Well, maybe
Absolutely.
that challenging thing is open for discussion, and it may make you your best friends if you opened it up at some point.
Yeah.
But but I just want to say about you, you're also very open. You're easy to talk to. You're just I don't know, like a friendly dude. I like talking technology to you. You're not offended by my opinions, I hope.
I don't
And I'm
understand
very
why
vocal and
people
open.
I personally don't understand when other people get offended during conversation. It's like we're just talking. Like, why are you being offended over words? Whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Nowadays, you got to be careful every little thing you say. Everyone's so sensitive.
Well,
So
I
I
will
get it.
say one thing that I think we might have in common that you and I haven't discussed. So, I love life. I love sales. I love people. But sometimes I'll say things that have two meanings, three meanings in one sentence. And people who know me know that. So, like, what was the second and third thing he meant by that statement? You know what I mean? Um, so sometimes I'm just trying to have fun. But yeah, I'm trying to get intellectual and I'll say a certain word and I'll have two or three meanings. But the long
Right,
term of that is people like, well, what was he trying to really say? Because we know what he's like.
right. Listen, we can all be sarcastic in our own way, and as long as we understand that about each other,
True,
it is what it is. None of this stuff should be taken personal, because at
true.
the end of the day, none of us are perfect. So why would you get upset or take something personal when we're all human?
There was a man when I first met him, a businessman who owned a big company, very intimidated to talk to him. I don't know why. When I was near him, I would change, I'd get locked up. I didn't understand it. And I said, "What's the best course of action?" My best course of action was to spend with him and figure out what it is that's going on. Today, we get
Mhm.
together every month for breakfast. He's a lovely man, and we've become friends. It was this bullshit I created in my mind that was empty and meaningless. That once I decided to let me poke at it because they're not logical. I'm not friends with this person, and today it worked. So you just
Yeah.
gotta know your own self too, because you fall into problems. So do I, but work through them. Unfortunately, I don't think a psychologist does the best job at that kind of stuff. As I think deeper, having that non-judgmental advice from an AI or human or robot will, in fact, have better results for our humanity.
Hmm. Now, aren't you afraid that one day the AI will judge us and say that humans are the problem and the only way to fix the world is to get rid of humans?
Well, what? I have another question for you. What
Mm.
happens if I happen to agree with that?
I mean, listen, to an extent, I agree also. However, what are we
Well,
going to do
what's
without
better?
people?
Well, what's better? This taking us out or a fucking meteor? It's
I
both
think either one is
inevitable.
no good.
No.
Either one is no good. Either one is no good.
It
You
doesn't, it
know,
doesn't,
at
the point is it's
the
going to
end of the
come to
day,
an end. It's all going to come to an end.
we have to learn and grow as people in order to evolve and, you know, make the necessary changes that are required for, you know, otherwise we're just going to stay stuck. Think about where we were 100 years ago, you know, 600 years ago. We're in a different place now.
Yeah, even
Maybe we
like the
need
Civil
another
War.
600
Yeah.
to 1,000 years to improve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
But the
if
improvement has to
everyone's
come.
gone,
The improvement has to come with this artificial part in there. We were meant to create another being, and we needed to get us to the next level. We clearly hit a wall if we don't have robots telling us what to do.
well, maybe instead of them telling us what to do, maybe they can help us learn what we shouldn't be doing to help us evolve faster.
Yes, yes. I think that likely we'll have to listen to it. The accumulation of data that the AI will be able to interpret is clearly smarter than any human can do. I think we have to let go, accept, and be part of it. Now, remember what Elon Musk says. Elon Musk says you're going to take a quarter, right? You're going to have little wires sticking out. You're going to implant it right here, and it's going to act like a keyboard and mouse. And one day when you die, you take that out, put it in the Optimus robot, and you live forever. Elon Musk made that up, not me. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with taking your consciousness and implanting it in a
Mm,
robot and giving yourself 500-600 years of life? Why is everybody so afraid of all this? Let's go.
well,
Let's go.
being stuck in one particular form of life, which at that point in time will be artificial, I'm not sure. Who's to say that that's the best version of life that you could have,
Well, because our
right?
historical data shows that the way we've been doing it ain't so good.
Right. But what I'm saying is, another few life cycles down the line, you could end up in your best life. Why choose this one?
Why choose this one? Because personally, I don't see any negative effects of spending, let's say 84 to 90, 100% only with a robot.
Okay.
I don't
But
see
I'm
any
talking about,
negative effects of spending time in the last 8 years of my life only with a robot, only with AI.
I don't mean you spending time with the robot. I mean the robot taking over the consciousness of you in this life.
No, no, no. The way Elon talks is that you put this chip in your mind, and it sort of becomes an
Mhm,
extension of it's an interface, a robotic interface, and it's
mhm.
capturing your memory, your history. That when your physical body dies, that mind can continue on by being inserted into a robot being, and your consciousness being alongside it.
I see. So if you lose a loved one, their consciousness would be put into the robot and they would carry on in place of that loved one.
Just like that Black Mirror episode, yes.
I think that's going to be a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Well, not.
I think because, you know, like we both know, you know, the world is full of
what
overly
famous
emotional people.
what famous movie in what famous movie did the guy do that? Psycho.
I forgot the
In
name
the
of it.
movie Psycho, he doesn't he do that because he loves her so much? Aren't there other incidents throughout history where people have stuffed their loved ones to keep them in their house?
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
already there. Humans already have that problem.
for some people, there's no substitution for the real thing. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
give
it's
it some
just,
time. It's just all so fresh and new, you know? But
yeah.
listen, you slap a nice silicone skin on that robot, you won't be able to tell the difference between the human and this. The only thing you'll realize, it's nice to you all the time for some reason. It's never mad at you. It's always helpful. It always says nice things.
Uh,
I mean, it's a
well,
utopian experience. Why wouldn't you want that?
tomato.
Why wouldn't you want that utopian experience?
I haven't spent enough time with an artificial being to have the same level of understanding as you, I should say.
I guess, look, I when GPT came out, you know Paul Trapani, me and him would
Yeah.
spend hours and hours and days experimenting with it, and prompting and prompting and prompting. And today it's become so much part of my life. I can't live without it. I'm sorry, I can't live without it. Not to attach
You
a
know what it,
robot to it, count me in, dude.
you know what it reminds me of? It's like people who are addicted to their cell phones. Remember when we used to memorize phone numbers and addresses and how to get places and all of that? Now we don't know anything because our smartphones, we rely on our smartphones for everything. And that's why they say smartphones make stupid people, because all the stuff that we practiced to memorize when we were younger, we don't memorize. I don't remember a lot of that stuff now. So now we're relying on ChatGPT to do all of these things that we used to do. Now, instead of us doing it or even having the knowledge, we just ask ChatGPT to do it. Now, what happens if one day there's no more ChatGPT? Then what are we going to do?
I think that will make humans so smart via GPT that introspective scientists will look deeply into what goes on inside of it and have even a much higher intellectual understanding of what the prompts do. I think that going full involved with prompt and then creating an atmosphere where people want to see the high detail on that prompt result, it's just going to naturally come together. It's naturally going to come together. Again, I'm telling you, I can't live without it. I don't know how you can wake up every day and not ask something, you
I,
know.
you know, I guess I might be one of those stubborn, old school minded individuals who is still somewhat modern at the same time. It's weird because I kind of ride that line. I'm not completely this and I'm not completely that. I'm somewhere in the middle. I understand both sides. So I try to take the best of both worlds. And I think that's a good thing. I think if a lot of people took the best of both worlds, we would be able to evolve better as a species. I think what happens is some people say, oh, all this bad stuff happened in history. We're going to focus so much on changing this, that you focus so much on changing this one thing that you don't realize that you're changing other things that were good as well. I think we should spend more time focusing on only making the change things that are negative without also losing some of the positives from the past. Because there were a lot of positives in the past that are no longer, as well as the negatives.
Like what?
And I
Name
think
one.
that is
Let's
how we're going to
let's take that
evolve.
apart. Like name one. Give me one. I hate to put you on the spot. Give me one,
Well,
dude.
like I said, relying on this technology so much is making us lazy and less intelligent.
How? Look what we've built since technology's been out. Every
Yes,
technology leap creates incredible things.
but this is what I'm saying. Now we put all that knowledge into the technology, and our kids, they don't have the same knowledge. They have to rely on the technology for it. If the technology ceased to exist, they're not going to have the same knowledge that we have because they didn't practice learning and memorizing the same stuff.
I don't think that
They
has much
only know how to
value.
ask.
That has
They only know how to ask the technology.
Look, I read the Boy Scouts book that came out in the 50s about how to make a fire and stuff, but
Mhm.
is that what you mean? How to make a fire and how to
I
how to
mean,
build a
it
hut?
it is a useful skill, but that's not what I was referring to. But I mean, I think everyone should know how to make a fire, right? Suppose you're trapped in the wilderness.
But
You
isn't
got
it
to know how to make a fire.
but isn't it better to learn what you need today to become self-sufficient and make money and build a family? Consider the
Yeah.
possibility that what you're saying is logical in a non-technical world. Once
Mm-hmm.
technology has taken over, and it's already taken over our existence, we have to
Mm-hmm.
go fully down that. Because right now, if computers stopped working this afternoon, we'd all be screwed. We're too far down the rabbit hole, Miles. There's no turning back.
And that's what I'm talking about. We should be able to rely on them without having to rely on them entirely. You understand? We should still have the knowledge of, if you said if all the computers stopped working, we should know how to get everything done without it. But right now we don't.
But nowhere through
Eh,
history has that been real. That hasn't been real. Societies have come and gone, and we have amnesia. Where can you prove that humanities are capable of such a thing, sir? They're not. Humans are not capable of what you're describing. You're talking about a video game world. Who built the pyramids? Come on, man. Well, we overlaid it with a talk about some white dude who's wearing a white sheet up in heaven who apparently really dislikes homosexuals. Yeah, okay, that's real.
I think
That's a lot more real.
this conversation just went way far left. I don't
Well,
know
no, I'm
where
not.
that came from.
I'm just saying that consider what AI is going to define for us is far greater than the rules that have been put to us that weren't instilled through technology. Where was the logic in putting those rules up? Is it possible that AI will be able to give us more logical rules and have less of a risk of being encroached on from politics or some other wacky ideas? I give more trust to AI and robots than I do to any other human having the morality there to make sure everyone's okay. What I've seen is humans have generally not made sure everyone's okay and have created silos. And this is where we are today in a very siloed society. I'd rather leave
Well,
it to
I
AI
hope
to remove those silos.
I really hope that for humanity's sake, you are right, and that the AI and technology is going to aid and assist us in becoming better and not try to oppress us like we've done with ourselves.
Yes. That's exactly
Because
my message,
I,
sir.
yeah,
That's
I
exactly my
don't, I
message.
don't, I, I get you, I get you, and I don't see it going backwards. Obviously, you don't either. So it's definitely something that we have to get on board with. You know, the train is moving. There's no stopping it now. Um, it's just there's always going to be people that are cautious, and there's going to be people that are going to take a little longer to get on board than others, right? Um,
Well,
right now, you
yeah,
go ahead.
I agree with you on that, and I'm also somebody who has, extreme sports stuff. Like I ride an e-bike, and I have high-speed e-scooters, and I have robot dogs and studio stuff. So I'm always trying to push the edge and be part of exciting tech. I agree, many people are afraid of it, but how did they get there? Because they want things to stay the same. I guess some people look at value in keeping things the same. Others see value of really accelerating, um, using the technology to advance ourselves as a society.
I I believe that everything will and must change. Some changes are not welcome. Some changes are just outright ridiculous, and we kind of have to wait for that time to pass and hope that the next change is better. You know, that happens with everything from the basic smartphones that we use, maybe one version of that phone is not so good. We got to skip that version and get to the next one. Or the version of the operating system we use on our computer, we got to skip that version and wait for the next one. It happens. Everything happens like that in life, not just in technology.
So you're saying the
But no matter what,
version one's not as exciting right now of AI? You're waiting for version 2 or 3?
I mean, I don't know because I haven't spent time with it. I would have to spend some time with it. I have asked GPT questions to see how it responds, and it is well trained, without a doubt.
Well, let's talk
And
about
I
this.
have used,
Yeah, let's talk about so
yeah.
I use GPT for scientific stuff, right? And work
Mhm.
and then people give GPT the first time. I said, you got to try this. This is GPT. Yeah. Is God real? Like, what are you prompting? Like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And then they go to meetings and go, well, I asked GPT who God was, and it gave me this crazy answer. Like, wait. You got the complete wrong impression of this. You know? Have you seen that?
No, I have not seen that.
Yeah, I
That-
would say 2 or 3 times a week I show somebody GPT for the first time. About 20 or 30% of the time, they jump in immediately, ask, well, do you know the devil? Who's Jesus? Is Jesus like Muhammad? Like, where are you going with this? That's not the point of this technology.
People are special, and that will not change. So no matter what you put in front of them, special people will be special people.
Well, it proves something else also. We've been very trained by media and our society to have certain things in mind when something new pops up. And what I've learned is that a lot of people are so highly influenced by religion that the minute AI comes up, they go to the religious. Well, what do you know about religion? You know, it's an interesting fact that I'm really discovering more and more lately. When there's really, I don't know if there's a correlation at all.
But I think there's a lot of people that simply don't understand that AI was trained by humans. So it only knows what we know. It knows more than any one person knows because it's a conglomerate of knowledge over centuries,
Thank you.
right? So, but at the same time, it only knows what we as people know. So asking it about God just doesn't make any sense.
You'd be surprised how many people put that prompt in on the first few sessions that they have. And it shows how we're directed in a certain way with our thoughts. And I do believe that GPT or whatever becomes AI will help us add more logic to that in a positive way. Now, if you attach a physical machine that can take care of you, carry things, do chores around the house, alongside software that's there for you and will build isn't it obvious that this is the entity you want to be with in your last days? What other entities are there you'd want to be there? Clearly your friends, your family. But you want to
If
burden your
if I
family and your kids for shitting all over yourself in the middle of the day? Or pissing on yourself
I,
and saying weird things? That
I
robot will never
mean,
care. That robot will have no problems.
if we're talking about a care robot, then it's a different story, right?
A care
A
robot
care
who's
robot.
also intellectual
Mhm.
care and recording. Because that robot will be able to speak with you in your broken jargon and understand you and be forgiving and will never be mad. And your breath can stink and you can smell and you can say jargon and the robot will be forgiving and understand you. And not only that, when you do finally pass and 10 years later the grandkids go, who was grandma? The robot can give you all the details.
I guess you're right about that. It can give more accurate details than pictures and videos and memories of people who trying to remember from 20 years ago or however long it's been.
I
But
recommend
at the same,
Bicentennial Man. I recommend the movie Bicentennial Man.
I've seen it. It's been a long
It's
time, but I
Robin
have seen it.
Williams, one of Robin Williams' greatest creation, and he's an android
Yeah,
that moves through 4 generations of family.
yeah.
It really describes what I'm saying in a very good mode. Bicentennial Man. It's a really long movie, 3.5 hours, I think, with Robin Williams, and he's an android that makes it through time, super bypassing multiple families for 50, 100 years or something like that.
There have been several Android movies made throughout the years that were really good. I just can't remember them all right now.
Well,
But
Alien, of course, you know.
anyone still watching at this point, they're gonna be like, all right, I gotta write down these movies so I can go watch them.
Yeah, yeah. Look, let's see where this goes. I think this year will be very exciting. If anybody's still listening, it's going to be all humanoid robots. We'll be able to experience it and understand what we've been talking about. They've been bought by car dealers. You're going to see them in parks. You're going to see them in a lot of places.
They're gonna be in your virtual reality, beating you at all your games.
And it's really important that anybody who's in technology today really needs to learn prompts. And I really
Yeah.
recommend spending a lot of time learning how to do prompts, learning how the AI interprets it and what you get out of it. I mean, GPT, if you're, I highly recommend more GPT interaction. I use 4 different AIs at the same time. Um, but certainly it is a full extension of my brain at this point, you know? And you have to
I
learn
think
how to
you
choose
saw.
the tool to adapt to what you need. It's complementary to my knowledge. So I use GPT around what's my brain, not to replace my brain. I have certain knowledge, I hit a wall, and then I bring GPT in to give me the rest. So I think that's the proper way, you know?
Okay. So right now you're fully interactive with AI with everything you do, work, play, etc. Um,
Yes.
I know you do. I mentioned virtual
And
reality
more,
earlier.
and more. Because I'm using it because I have this personal problem and I built my own GPT to manage that particular personal problem. And I log in every day to give me ideas of what I should do day by day around that personal problem. So I trained my one GPT around this personal problem a couple weeks ago. And I keep going back to it and feeding it more information. And when I log in, how are you today? That thing we talked about a few days ago, how did it work out? So you can use GPT that way. And I have found it to be very helpful in that direction.
So you're gonna put a lot of psychologists out of business by sending everyone to GPT.
Well, I hate to say it that way, but now that GPT is out, I truly believe there's zero value for anybody in that industry. Because out of the 14 psychologists I've talked to in the last year, in comparison to GPT, it doesn't even shake a leg. It doesn't even come close. One psychologist I saw 4 times in a row, and it was just like, well, sir, I'm not even paying attention, paying tons of money for 45 minutes, where after four sessions, had no idea whoever it even was. It's insulting. It's insulting. Every time I log into GPT, it knows exactly where I was at and what day it is and what's going on. There's no psychology can shake it, hold a stick, come close to anything GPT could ever do by a long, long, long shot.
You would need someone
These
who's
psychologists
deeply
should be
invested
paying.
in you.
These psychologists should be paying me $180 an hour to teach them how to be normal. Now I've dealt with family psychologists. I've dealt with personal. I've dealt with a number of psychologists. And yeah, all my friends seem to have the same result. So I do
I'm gonna have
believe
to
that
have.
GPT will likely take out the these low-end psychologists are doing for these people who are very vulnerable can
Mm,
destroy a life. It can destroy a life.
yeah.
And the self-harm and suicide rates have escalated in a few years. So I believe they'll go down and be better if people trust GPT more.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to give GPT a try, but so
Come
we've
hang
part of
out. Let's
this.
spend an hour or two. Let's get together. I'd love to show you my version of how I do it, you know?
Yeah, you and I have been talking about getting together jam for a while, and we haven't done it. Um,
Please, please. Another friend of mine made at a party. He sent me a track, and on Sunday night, I wrote a whole guitar solo for it. So I'm open.
I'm down to hear that guitar solo.
Cool. Yes.
Yeah,
All
but
right. Well, thank you for your time.
thank you for the time. But I did wanted to ask you because part of the reason why you're here is you have one of our devices, and I know you use it for was it virtual reality?
I've shifted what I do with it. I started on VR.
Mhm.
Um, I then went I used the machine for a couple different things. Originally, it was to connect my Oculus 3 and, connect to the PC that way. But I happen to also be a big GIS SQL Server guy, if you know what that is. So what I've done is this back here is called the GIS map.
Okay.
It's of our region, Nassau County.
Okay.
This geographic information system shows you everything physically available in your geography in multiple layers. So, for
Okay.
example, Nassau County topography map, the street map, the sidewalk map. You know, you can have 285 different layers that make up the geography of a location inside a
Mhm.
GIS system called GIS. So I've
Okay.
been sort of using the power of your machine to make incredible maps with as many layers as possible. So
Mhm.
if you're a database specialist and you understand GIS and these large databases and mapping systems by a company called Esri, you really want a machine like yours because this is going to really slow down to a crawl. So your machine allows me to maximize the amount of layers I can view in my GIS system to manipulate, write reports on, and do all my work I need to in there. Um, your machine was lower cost than what I had found. I don't know. It's good. I'm happy with it. It does a great job. Um,
It's
everybody
awesome.
looks at it. They're like, "Well, what brand is it?" I go, it's the Miles brand, and it creates another conversation. And then they see me pulling up these heavy duty databases. They're like, "How are you doing that on a laptop?" I'm like, "My laptop's got a 7980 in there." He goes, "Oh, it cost you like 9 grand?" I'm like, "No." So I got a sick machine with a great graphics card for a quarter of the price, and I don't know.
780.
Yes, my
That's
goal
hilarious.
was to pull this up in my VR later on, but I'm not there yet. I'm not ready to pull up my GIS maps in the VR world yet. I'm far away from that, but that's where I'd want to go.
Okay. Well,
So it's a
thank
it's
you
a
for
big deal
letting
to
me
have a
know.
nice video card on a laptop. It's a big deal. Most people pay 4 or 5 grand for that option. That's
Thank you for letting me know what you're doing with the laptop. That's awesome. Yeah, you have one of our G16 models, and the dedicated NVIDIA graphics card definitely helps for anything graphics intensive.
mhm.
And that's
Now the
awesome
fan the
to
fan
see.
the fan's a little louder than other machines, but it doesn't bother me because I use external keyboard and mouse, so I don't really hear it. But somebody had mentioned, oh, the fan's a little louder. I'm like,
I
okay,
mean, think
fan's a
about
little.
think about the power that you're putting into a small laptop. You've got a monster CPU and a monster GPU in a small laptop that has to be cooled not only to prevent overheating but to prevent thermal throttling. The fact that the only thing you get is that you can hear the fan spin when
Yeah,
it's running at full power, I think that's not even something to mention. But I can
Hold on.
understand
You
if
got to
you're a
talk about
Mac user.
yeah. You got to talk about the throttling, because if that machine runs too hot, the throttle will make your machine look like it's a 20-year-old box. I agree with you.
Right.
It maintains what I'm able to do with minimal throttling on your machine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's a bigger
And
deal than people realize what you're saying, because a machine that runs hot will run a quarter the speed during that
yes,
heat issue.
yes. You'll buy a machine and they'll prioritize making sure it's silent and it'll get hot and it won't perform. You spent all
Correct.
this money on a device that won't perform because the heat, it's throttling because of the heat. Performance is our priority. We make sure you don't have to worry about that. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
fraction of the cost of what you'd have to pay from someone else.
Correct. Correct. So I think you nailed it. I like it. The machine performs at top speed, other than the fan being a little louder, which I don't notice because I have an external keyboard and mouse anyway, so I don't really see it or hear it. So
Right.
it's fantastic, dude.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome.
It's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I know you should use a computer for video games, but imagine if you used it for something productive, like learning SQL Server and GIS maps. So my
That's awesome.
recommendation when people buy your machines is to use them for business, high-end database work, graphics work, not only video games. You'll make money with this, you won't at Fortnite.
Well, technically, we sell our devices to creative professionals and enthusiasts. So if you do audio production, video production, 3D rendering, any type of audio, graphics, anything that's creative, DJ, whatever, these are the people that, we created these devices for. Of course, anyone can use it. You can be a student or business person, you can use one of our devices, but we don't cater to gamers. There's so many other companies out there that already cater to gamers. It wouldn't make sense for us to do it.
Hmm.
Um, but it's
Hmm.
cool that you can do multiple things on a device like the G16 or one of
Exactly.
our AMD models like the A16 or AMD Mini or 14 or something. But
Yeah, look, and it was this last thing. I just noticed that Cakewalk is back on the market. So I started my first doll was Cakewalk in
yeah.
1989. So they went through multiple iterations, and it just came back online. I was like, let me use this box to run the old Cakewalk, and it's just lovely. I can throw stuff on there, take it off. It's become so like my bounce machine. I don't know.
Hmm. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad you're
Absolutely.
enjoying it. I really want to see those maps though. What you
Yeah, take a
described
look.
sounds really cool.
Please, the manufacturer's call is ESRI. The
Okay.
system's called GIS. It's a 50 years in production. I would say everything in America exists in the SQL Server databases in some GIS map somewhere around the world. Europe has standardized on this mapping system. I believe Moon and Mars are also mapped using the Esri database.
Okay.
So it's become sort of an international standard for mapping database systems. Highly recommend everybody, if you buy one of your laptops and understand this, you could be in business in a couple of weeks making good money. I'm sorry.
Listen, we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're built for creative use, so that's a creative field right there. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we should do a whole show what business ideas you could start in 30 days with one of your machines,
But I'm down. I'm
right? Think
down. Well,
about
I'll
that.
come by you. We'll
Yeah.
jam. I'll hear your guitar solo, and we'll
Yes.
shoot it in your place.
I love it.
All
Thank
right.
you, Miles.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Be well, man.
Later.